All right, all right, all right. Hey, Matthew, Richard Johnson. What did Joy Ramone say?
He said, hey, ho, let's go.
And that's exactly what we're going to do. Hello, my legendary friends. This is Christopher Lochhead with the man who is most famous for being the producer of Legends and Losers, Matthew Richard Johnson. How are you, Matthew?
I'm doing well. Oh, man. Christopher, how are you?
And this is an episode of This Week in Business, and we have a very special guest who I think will cease being a guest starting today, the world-famous, the most legendary writer, Heather Clancy. How are you, Heather?
The most legendary writer in the room. Hello, guys. How are you?
Doing awesome.
It's a little bit like being the tallest midget, but you are definitely the most legendary writer in the room, Heather.
In my room, I'm only the person in my room.
All right, so Chris, why don't you catch us up on why Heather's on the show with us today?
Well, Heather and I are dear friends, and I've learned to say longtime friends, because when you say old friends, particularly, not that a guy might be insulted, but I have found that women are generally insulted when you call them old friends.
I haven't gotten to that point yet, but yes, people are generally, the women of my acquaintance are offended by that word, yes.
So, and I grew up in the industry reading and idolizing Heather. When I was a young buck coming up, I was one of the industry publications who at the time was a very, very big deal, was called CRN, Computer Reseller News. And Heather was the queen of CRN. And she's interviewed all the top gurus and stuff, and I used to read her column every week. CRN used to be like a phone book, right, Heather?
Yeah, it was a scary phone book.
And it was a broadsheet, right? It was a big-ass thing.
A big-ass tabloid, if you will, but business to business, and it was quite the thing. I think we got up to 666 pages or something like that at one point. And It was weekly, by the way, Matt, so that's what makes it even more. It's not like Vogue, which is like once a month. It was weekly. It was like, wow. So, yeah, quite a thing.
Back in the day when people read.
Back in the day when people did not understand technology, and it was very much a weirdo thing that just these weirdos and nerds handled, and I was a weirdo and nerd, so.
That's probably why we get along so well.
That is why, well, plus you're like my husband. You're crazy, so I'm attracted to you, I guess, because of that. It's like a opposites attract thing.
Luckily for you, Joe's way better looking than me. And so Heather has written for Forbes, Fortune, Inc., Entrepreneur, I don't know.
Mm-hmm. New York Times.
HuffPo, New York Times.
Not HuffPo. I haven't done the HuffPo thing.
Okay,
but
well, whatever.
Yeah.
You're, in the parlance of our times, as legit as shit on the old writing thing. And I got down on my hands and knees a little while ago, and I begged Heather to join me in writing this new mini book that we're writing called Niche Down. And for some crazy reason, she said yes. And so I just want you to know, Heather, from my perspective, I'm like get to write a book with one of my idols.
And I get to write a book with someone that I've been interviewing for a long time. So you heard his perspective, but for me, Christopher was one of the people that I could call on and rely on to get the real deal, the real shit, if you will. No punches pulled, as you all know from those of you who watch him. Let's see how many times he can get me to swear on this. This is a good thing. Like, I'm gonna have to create a tip jar or something where I put $1 in every time I swear, because I'm not usually this way. But in all seriousness, I've been covering two subjects that have fascinated me for a long time are technology, just because I just love the impact on society, on business, and so forth. And I've always been very interested in how it just changes things, changes processes, and so forth. But the other thing that's fascinated me forever is entrepreneurship. I just have always loved writing about small, gutsy people that have great ideas, and when you approached me, Christopher, and the concept behind this book, the idea that you to be an entrepreneur, it's not about being better, it's about being different, about being unique, about niching down. I've always believed that, and you had this way of putting it so masterfully and succinctly. So that's what attracted me. I have been asked by others to help with books, and I've always been very intimidated by it, and I'm scared as heck right now about this, but excited about the topic, and there's so many great stories to tell that it's really easy to find people to talk about for this book. So thank you for asking me.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure, and we're having a ton of fun writing it. And we did put together, with a lot of help from our friend Matthew Richard Johnson, a teaser. And by the way, so a lot of help as well from Jamie J. Shout out to Jamie J. and his good people at Slapshot Studios. And so we put together this white paper, if you will, this teaser for our new mini book, Niche Down. And so if you want that teaser, the preview of Niche Down, write up a review of Legends and Losers, take a screenshot of that review, email it to blackhole@legendsandlosers.com, and you will get the free preview of Heather's and mine's, I don't know. What's the plural of Heather and I? I guess just Heather and I, right? Our new book.
We need a copy editor. That's not my job.
Oh, I thought as a writer you knew how to write and speak English.
There are writers and then there are copy editors. Very, very important distinction. So we need one.
And then there are
grammarians. There are grammarians.
All right, let's get on with our agenda today. What are the business shit we want to talk about, Matthew Richard Johnson?
Yes. Well, lead us off because you have the agenda that was not received by either one of us. I've got some things I want to talk about.
There's a
good Super Bowl commercial that I want to cover.
You didn't get the email with today's agenda on it? The one I've sent you guys 3 times? I think I'm having an email breakdown crisis.
I think you are.
Yeah. All right. Well, fuck it.
I think email hates. If we personify technology, Chris, email hates you. I think that's the moral of the story.
Oh, the technology hates me. We've been having some more problems with our AV here, our technology set up here at the Worldwide Studio.
Intergalactic Legends and Losers.
Exactly. And let's just call him Technology Jimmy number 2 is about to get fired, and so we're interviewing Technology Jimmy's number 3. And I was explaining to Technology Jimmy number 3 on the phone yesterday. I was like, yeah, no, I know you say that's all going to work and everything. You don't know me. Like I am a technology destruction field. Like if you bring your laptop near me, it'll stop fucking working. But I digress. Okay, topic number 1. You ready for this one? This is from our friends at TechCrunch. Airbnb is rolling out a new tier aimed at high-end travelers. So they're launching 2 new sub-brands or services. One they call Airbnb Plus and Beyond Airbnb. Mm-hmm. And they say that Airbnb Plus is for homes that are, quote, verified for quality and comfort. And Beyond Airbnb is their, quote, luxury tier. And they, quote, unquote, build it around whole trips, including experiences and other high-end things. Mm-hmm. So Airbnb Plus and Beyond Airbnb, high-end Airbnb shit. Discuss.
Discuss. Heather, we'll let you go first.
Oh, man!
I know. So throw you under the bus on this one.
Discuss. Well, I think I wonder why. I mean, I think that the point of Airbnb has been like to get a place cheap, on the cheap, right? Go to a city. I kind of think of them in my mind as like the hostel of the tech generation, right? You can go and stay in this place and it's not necessarily going to have all the amenities, but it's going to be a place you can stay, maybe, just be like you're at home. So I'm not really sure I get it. I also see maybe, it doesn't fit the corporate mold either, right? So I know that my company is looking at Airbnbs for corporate reasons. So I wonder what American Express thinks. I mean, every credit card company, especially American Express, has their own luxury travel services and so forth. So, I don't get it. There you go.
Well, so what I love about this is that they're doing what category kings do, which is they're expanding the category potential, right? So they're moving, if you will, up market, clearly. To your point, though, Heather, it is off category and off brand, and so will it work is sort of an interesting question. My gut is it probably will. From a branding perspective, though, here's what I know. They have 2 tiers, Airbnb Plus and Beyond Airbnb. On both names, they get an F. So first of all, why would you call your high-end offering Beyond Airbnb? You just are saying that
Get beyond us.
Airbnb sucks, and so we got to go beyond what sucks. It's a terrible name. And then Airbnb Plus, here's what I know. When companies put plus behind a brand or a product name, it's because they have no fucking idea what to call it. They've run out of ideas, complete lack of creativity. And the other thing about Airbnb Plus, it says that they've verified that the homes are good for quality and comfort. And so again, the unspoken speaks more loudly than the spoken in often cases. And so does that mean that the regular Airbnb shit is not verified for quality and comfort? It's like, to your point, it's like take a chance, fucking stay here maybe with a psycho killer.
Verified by who, too? I mean, like the company, like they don't trust the owners or something? I mean, that for me would be like, oh, you don't trust the regular verification system. So like, ugh. But anyway.
But I definitely do give them high marks for trying to expand the category, even if it's not quite. Maybe not quite the right branding.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was gonna say that is like the plus thing is a branding thing. But Chris, I want to point out that like what your viewpoint and Heather's viewpoint is like the classic what happens when they try to mix up or try to shift their point of view midstream. Because Heather just recounted exactly what the point of view was of Airbnb for the first however many years of their existence. And then they decide, and you guys cover that in the book, they decide, no, it's not just about cheap, it's not about sharing, it's about hospitality. We're in the hospitality business, which then expands the category. Yes. But then, right, now you have conflicting points of view. So you have an entire population out there that registers and resonates and identifies an old point of view, and they haven't done a great job of essentially marketing and evangelizing their new point of view.
Well, and that's an area where they're potentially very weak because they're launching products or services and in the absence of a point of view. So that's a little spooky. And so I hope they don't make the mistake of just like going head on against the entrenched category queens and kings, but they actually do evangelize that point of view.
Mm-hmm. I'm excited for Chris, your place to come up on Airbnb Plus.
Oh yeah. I'm going to be putting our place on Airbnb when monkeys fly from my ass.
Well, they would have to be vetted for chicken nurturing skills. So
that's right. Chicken step parenting.
All right. Next topic. Do you have a topic? Drum roll, please. On April 23rd begins the great unwinding of net neutrality. Our government is going to do it. This is from the Verge.com. Quote, parts of the change are set to go into effect on April 23rd, which got me very angry, but then I kept reading. Check this out. The bulk of the order, however, which reverses net neutrality that was put in place in 2015, is, quote, still doesn't have a date for when it will be official because the new rules modify data collection requirements and therefore have to be approved by the Office of Management and Budget, and that has not happened yet. So they're going to take the first step on April 23rd, but the net of it is we don't really know what's happening next. Net neutrality, Heather Clancy, what say you?
Oh, why do I have to get everything first? It's because I'm the guest, huh?
Well, we're not going to treat you like a guest for very much longer.
Well, so here's the thing.
You're smarter than I am.
I am such a wrong person to ask about this because, like, as a target audience for this, I watch nothing. Like, I'm here with you, but I am not like the classic, binge streaming video person that would really get crushed by having to pay more, right? Having to pay a different tier for that, right? And to have the data, the bandwidth, and so forth. So, like, if you look at it from strictly a consumer point of view, I'm like totally the wrong audience. I don't care. I couldn't care less. It concerns me because
that thinks like, yeah, go ahead.
No. So here's the thing that bothers me more than anything else is that we have such a disparity. It's the old digital divide thing going on in so many urban areas and so many rural areas around the United States. And the thing that bothers me about this whole thing is that there is no incentive anymore for the and I use that word loosely, I guess, incentive, or because you could look at it in a pejorative way. There's no mandate, whatever, to put services everywhere unless you're going to get that kind of pay. So in other words, it kind of gives the service providers the out of expanding into areas where it might not potentially be lucrative or profitable, but where we really need these services, like so that we can have citizens all around, just in the United States, have the right to get access to these services. So that bothers me. It sort of it sets up the because that's part of it, right? And that's kind of in the background. So that bothers me. Yeah, go ahead.
That's part of it, but the other part that drives me crazy is the reality is in many areas the internet providers have, if not an actual monopoly, very close to a monopoly, because they've lobbied the government and they've cut the country up and they've done, in my opinion, very nefarious shit. And so. So they've locked out competition, and now they're turning around and saying, okay, and we get to decide what we're going to serve you at what rate, and if you don't like it, you can, eat shit. And so what it means is, for example, they may, Comcast, not that they would ever do anything evil or nefarious, those bastards, could prioritize NBC content and deprioritize Legends and Losers. And so I just think we're at a place where, A, the government has allowed monopolies are close to it, and so there's no competition, there's no choice. And if you're going to do that, then the bottom line is you got to treat these people like public utilities. And every user, in my opinion, and every content provider should be treated equally. And I think this is an abomination.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with that part of it. I just, it's just disgusting. It's disgusting that you could
Matthew
have
Johnson,
that.
what say you now?
You probably don't want to hear I'm way libertarian on this. So my mentality is typically most things that reduce the government's role, especially in things that the government itself probably doesn't understand at the level they need to make intelligent decisions about it, typically a good thing. So, but in this case, it may be an issue of, look, they're going to grant monopolies anyway, and then the only question is, then what do you do with it from there? So you already have massive government involvement in it anyway, and then you're trying to get them to make rational, intelligent decisions that benefit the majority of other people, I think is a stretch. So,
and that's what pisses me off.
Yeah.
Heather's a scuba diver. Matthew, do you scuba dive?
I do not.
Okay, well, there's this expression in scuba diving that goes like this. You can't suck and blow at the same time.
Wisdom we should all live by.
There you go. And what's going on here is sucking and blowing at the same time, which is people are saying, oh, this is, the government should get out and let the providers do whatever they want. Well, okay, great. Then let us have competition.
Yes.
So you can't say there's no competition and then say we're going to let the providers fuck the little guy and optimize for their own content. That is completely, in my opinion, wrong, immoral, and somebody needs to get waterboarded over this, I think. All right, now do either of you have a topic you want to touch on?
Heather, we'll defer to you first.
Whew. Wow.
I got one for you if you don't, Heather.
Well, I was just going to say, I was just trying to think of like the only, I didn't want to get political, so I was going to say yes, but no, because I'm not going there. I know too many teachers. So.
Ooh, interesting.
But I actually do want to say one thing, and that is, and this is completely different from technology, from the things that you just brought up, but I was really stoked to see more mayors and governors step up this week and say, President Trump, you're an idiot for this Paris Agreement thing. P.S. It was 81 degrees here in New Jersey on Wednesday. I'm sorry. We got it. My thing is I believe that we're going to hit. I think that actually there's some rational human beings emerging in the climate denier community that we're going to see some stuff happen at the federal level. I'm going to be optimistic about this, but we definitely are having great local leadership on just speaking up against boneheaded decisions. So I'll get off my soapbox now. But you did have something you wanted to ask me about, so go for it.
Yeah, you wrote a great article recently, so I want to quote part of this article.
Just one?
So Heather writes for this. Well, yeah. You just wrote one. You need to work on those other ones. So you write for this thing, GreenBiz, right, which is a great publication on new technologies in the green area. And by the way, as a side note, if people haven't checked out the Bill Walton episode of Legends and Losers, listen to it. It's a magical mystery tour, and he talks about he's involved with some green entrepreneurs. Anyway, you wrote this great story, and I'm going to read you part of it. You said, quote, could lasers, I love lasers, could lasers bring electricity to faraway places, cutting back on the need for replacement batteries or diesel generators? So do you want to unpack this story for us, Heather? Because
So
I actually thought this was
a little
very...
bit. Yeah. Yeah.
Go.
They're called, the technology was actually came out of the military. So the idea is that you want to use two different vehicles, if you will. Regular fiber optic cable to basically beam me up, right? But basically change electricity into light and beam it through the line, and then at the other end it's received and used to charge whatever's there. Now the other concept is it works also over the air, so free air, right? So the company that's working on this technology, and Christopher, I am totally spacing out their name right now. They were called Laser Motive, but they're called Power Optic, Power Light.
Power Light Technologies.
Power Light Technologies.
They're an 11-year-old company trying to
so Power Light
bring lasers to electricity.
They just rebranded, and I had their old name stuck in my head. So the idea, here's an application, right? So you think, okay, what the heck? I mean, why do you care? Ocean exploration. Right now, if you send any kind of machine down into the depths of the ocean, you have to have a cable, a heavy copper cable that powers that thing, both for the lighting and to move it around, but as well as also for collecting the data and beaming up the information, if you will. So this would allow you to use a fiber optic cable instead, much lighter in the water, less drag, can go deeper, keeps the thing charged, and also, just it's less energy intensive. So there's just some very practical applications that they're exploring. That another idea would be to have a tethered drone, so you could put a drone up into the air for way longer than you could now with a battery. Like the batteries just aren't long enough, and there are tethered drone applications, if you can believe it, but stick the thing up in the air to do surveillance, for example. The free air things are a little bit out there, but the idea is that maybe you're in the middle of nowhere and you could keep batteries in a communication station charged in some way through these light waves. So, and lasers, right?
What happens if you're standing in front of one of these light waves of electricity and it gets you?
So yeah, that is one of the concerns. They don't know that much about it, but they have been testing this with.
That's my first question,
right? Yeah, I'm looking at the tethered applications right now, but the military, the NASA, they basically won a couple of NASA challenges. They're working with the Department of Defense and so forth. So the reason I was looking at this is could you envision a future where you just have the fiber optic cables in the house? It's kind of like if any of the techies on watching right now, it's kind of like the idea of power over Ethernet, right? But the same thing, like you could envision a time when maybe there's just one set of cables in your house that maybe powers everything. You don't necessarily have copper. Maybe there's less of a fire hazard and so forth. So like the cable, the tethered thing seems a little more straightforward. The through the air lasers, yeah, that's a little scary, but I would believe it would be in very remote locations where you just can't get communications in at this time. So yeah, that's the crazy little piece I wrote this week.
Yeah, no, it's great. What do you think, Matt?
Well, I'm always drawn to the marketing part of it. So the applications are cool. But yeah, I mean, I guess it reminds me of, like, I have no idea where this stuff is going, and I'm kind of in Heather's camp when it comes to like live video and stuff like that. I'm the last adopter of certain things when it comes to technology. And so looking to me to be the predictor of what consumers or companies will adopt, like in the production chain, absolutely pointless. I would be the worst tech entrepreneur ever. I'm the worst at predicting consumer and company like adoption behavior.
Excellent. Not your superpower.
Not
So
my
here's
superpower.
why I love this. I've thought about this for a long time, which is on the planet, of course, we produce a massive amount of electricity. The problem is getting the electricity to where we need it, right?
Yeah.
So the electricity is not in all the places we need it. And so this idea of how do we transport electricity has been a giant question for a long time. And of course, we used to use hydropower, lines to do that. And I think I don't know, I'm not an expert, Heather, but I'm assuming hydropower lines are still the primary way in which electricity.
Big.
And so the idea has always been, well, can we transport or somehow package electricity? And of course, there's a lot being done on batteries and all that shit. Samsung's making all those exploding phones and stuff. And so that's
Tesla's
cool.
making big batteries. Yep.
Yeah, and they open sourced a lot of that IP around those patents and shit around electricity storage and batteries and all that. So there's mass innovation, but this idea of sort of turning electricity into a laser and sort of transporting it over, some kind of a laser pipe, so to speak, and then through the air. Holy shit, that's some Star Trek shit right there.
It is.
And here's the dot I connect on this one. So I just had a conversation. We haven't dropped the episode yet, but with this entrepreneur, provocateur, writer guy named Jordan French. He writes for TheStreet.com, and he's a co-founder of this company called Behex, and they're a 3D printing company, and they 3D print food. So you can 3D print pizza, and they have a lot of. They started off. Yeah. Well, apparently it is not that bad. You could have get this. You could have a food truck that you on your phone, you order the pizza. The food truck is 3D printing the pizza as it's coming to deliver it to your house. And so it's a fascinating discussion with Jordan.
I can't wait for this. I want that idea to be combined with Amazon drones so that we have literal flying pizza ovens just out
a
delivering
3D
pizza
printing pizza printing drone. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
And what Jordan was telling me is there's a lot of military applications for this. It actually started off in space, where apparently the pre-made REI food they eat up there in space tastes like shit, and so they wanted to 3D print yummy shit, and so it started off in that. And so long story longer, if you can drop a 3D printer with the right ingredients somewhere in the world where it's hard to get good food, there's actually an opportunity here to do something pretty special, all kidding aside. And so I wonder if there's a connection here, if, the ability to deliver electricity to places that heretofore have been very hard to get electricity to, and then you drop a 3D printer in there that can do, whether it's food or tools or whatever the fuck it is, all of a sudden you have power and the ability to do cool shit in remote places that you didn't have before. And that sounds like an interesting kind of idea.
Yeah, disaster recovery there, like food to the places of disaster. So.
That's right.
Exactly. All right, so I think we want to keep things pretty tight for today. So I have one more, but how are we doing on time, Matthew Johnson?
I have exactly 2 minutes.
Okay, so I think we should wrap the show.
You don't think we can cover it in 2 minutes? Give it a shot. Throw it out real quick.
All right. My dear friend Eddie Yoon wrote this incredible article that came out just this week called "Why Dominating Your Category Can Be a Flawed Strategy."
Blasphemy.
Please
and
tell
he
me it's a
wrote
bait
this
and switch.
No, it's really smart. He wrote this for HBR. And look, this is my synthesis of what he says. He's probably going to kill me, which is, if you're focused exclusively on dominating your category, that's to say becoming the category queen.
The D word.
And what word do you like better, Heather?
Oh, I think that's a good point that you're saying D. If you're only doing that, what's the downside of doing that?
Well, the downside is, do you have a category strategy? Are you actually paying attention to the category? And so here's how I synthesize it. I'm sure he's going to kill me for this, but if you're solely focused on executing a category domination strategy to become the category queen, and you're not thinking about how do you do category expansion, how to increase category potential, then you might end up becoming queen shit of Turd Island.
What
and
a
so
visual.
he gives an example.
I'm assuming that's a direct quote from the HBR article.
Yeah, quoting Eddie Yoon. No, he'll kill me. he gives this story, which is a great story in HBR. He talks about General Mills and how they grew from number 1 to number 2 in market share in the last few years, but the cereal category declined by $4 billion, and so it didn't matter. And General Mills, their revenue has been falling like a turd from a tall cow for the last 15 out of the 16 quarters. And so the point is, you got to have a category strategy that is not just dominating the way it is today, but how do we make sure that our category matters over time? And so if you're not caring for your category in that way, then you could very much be Queen Shit at Turd Island.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Yeah,
on that
General
note,
Mills, I mean, their strategy should have been, well, that's the tough thing about being a company where the category is shifting under your feet due to like cultural reasons and nothing that you've necessarily done wrong. I mean, General Mills didn't bungle the cereal category necessarily. Cereal is losing popularity for social factors. Like we feel like we don't have the time to pour cereal into a bowl and pour milk into it and eat it because we are rushing to work. So now you've got protein bars, cereal bars, yada yada. General Mills could and maybe should have been on the cutting edge of cereal bars. Maybe you could make that case. General Mills should have been in venture capital backing Cliff.
I would argue that they committed the biggest sin you could commit, which is category neglect.
Yeah.
Right? So if people think there's a problem with cereal, they need to get on top of that, to your point. They need to either re-educate people as to why cereal is awesome or skate to where the puck's going to be, as opposed to fight for market share in a category that's collapsing.
Right. Yeah, that is true. Yeah, if you have an exclusive domination strategy and you don't pay attention to what's going on in the category as a whole, yes. So that was the point of Eddie Yoon's article, was basically don't have blinders on to the point where you don't even pay attention to whether your category is growing or not.
Amen. Hallelujah, brother.
Gotcha.
All right, Heather Clancy, anything else before we wrap today?
Eat your cereal.
I like it. That's right. Support General Mills.
Johnson.
They're about to go on welfare.
All right, and if you would like a copy of our white paper that is the preview of our new book, Niche Down, write a review of Legends and Losers wherever you like to consume podcasts, clip us a copy of that review, send it to blackhole@legendsandlosers.com, and we will get you out that spectacular white paper right now. And thank you so much for investing part of your life with us. We really appreciate it. And today, our apologies to Dr. Larry Nasser of USA Gymnastics. Sorry, Larry, we just ran out of time for you. That's it, my friends. Be legendary. Thank you. Love you both.